Welcome to the mines. We're going underground in this new habitat build in Jurassic World Evolution 3, hollowing out the rocks of Grand Canyon Park to build the Dimetrodon mines. Sometimes procrastinating works out in my favor, because before I got to building for this episode, a new trick was discovered that allows us to put the lagoon viewing dome in deep water for underwater viewing of our semi-aquatics. And this trick I felt was a perfect addition to the Dimetrodon mines. So I did it twice, because I'm greedy like that. One at the edge of the cave with the entrance building sticking out so it's accessible from the outside, and the other one has the entrance building to the underwater viewing dome deep within the dark tunnel so that it's only accessible to the bravest of guests who dare to go into the dark depths. The trick to doing this right is to ensure that the default viewpoint, so that is the first view you get when you access the attraction, is the one that looks out into the water. Because of course the viewing dome is round and has 3, maybe even 4 viewpoints that you can cycle through to get that 360-degree view around the dome. But except for that one default viewpoint, all the other ones are obstructed by the terrain with how this dome is placed. The default viewpoint is always right across from where the Hyperloop connection protrudes outwards. So it's opposite of the little nub. That's what you want to have face into the habitat. At least if you're gonna do it the way I did, where it's situated like directly next to the access point. Of course, you can still place the dome like in the middle of your lake and use that 360-degree view all the way around. The next step was to build the wooden frame of the mines. I'd already built a first version when I found a better, more rugged and uneven looking wooden post, so here I'm building a better version. I'm still learning all the pieces that we have in the game, so sometimes I find something and I'm like, oh, well, this is actually what I was looking for. Now, typically what you do is build one section and just copy it over to make a tunnel at whatever length you want. But because this is supposed to look like it's been made a bit haphazardly, I did make some changes to the slats on top and at the sides, so they don't perfectly repeat from one section to the next. It was also really important that I put in a curve so you can't see the end of the tunnel from the very start, because this creates more mystery and spookiness because you don't know what's hiding around that bend. Once I had a curved tunnel as a base, I copied that over to create multiple sections, just to make quicker work of it. There are 2 mistakes that I made by not thinking ahead, but I guess we'll get to that in a minute. I already had a rough plan for the shape of the tunnels, so it was just a matter of copying over pieces to match the path that I had drawn in with terrain paints. While I'm not much of a planner, I do always recommend that you start out with a bit of a sketch made with the terrain paints in-game to give yourself a general idea. On top of my 2 mistakes, I also have 2 regrets, so listen and learn if you want to do something like this, but you want to make it better. My first regret is that I kept it all on the same level. I should have dug down at some point, so guests walk down underground rather than just walking into the side of a cliff. It's funny, and I use that term ironically, that I literally thought of that the moment I finished. I was like, why didn't I dig down? The second regret I have is not branching off the tunnels more often. I only split the tunnel once out of necessity, but as I was doing that, I realized how much better it looks and that I should have done that at other points as well, creating a mine maze, if you will. With those things in mind, I definitely want to tackle this underground build idea again, either for a future episode of Grand Canyon Park or as a standalone habitat build. Let me know which dinosaur you think would be a good fit for another underground build. Of course, even my underground builds include a bridge. And this is why I had to split the tunnel in 2 before that point, because obviously bridges aren't functional, so while walking through, I would have created a dead end with this tunnel, so I needed an alternative route to get out of the mine without doubling back. The Dimetrodon will be walking under the bridge to get to a small cave off to the side, and you'll see at the end how cool this part of the build is. It's my favorite part of the build. I spent some time giving it a bit more of a bulky and quote-unquote realistic support structure without getting too lost in the details, because this part of the build is only going to be seen from a distance and in the dark. And I guess I'd say I'm a believer in the Disney World approach to park building, that only stuff guests can see and scrutinize up close needs to be able to measure up to such scrutiny, and the rest can just be a bit of an illusion, a bit of a trick of the eye. So, back to my mistakes. The first was not adding lights before copying the section of the tunnel over. Could have saved myself some time there. Although, of course, I'm only putting torches in the first tunnel, not in the second. The second tunnel is pitch black and has to be explored with a flashlight. My next mistake, and a much bigger mistake, was not adding rocks before copying over the segments. Adding the lights afterwards was quick enough, not a big deal. But getting the rocks perfectly into position was quite a chore, as I couldn't have them fully clip through the wood, so I really had to pay attention and move them really precisely. And it got especially challenging on the second side because I couldn't see very well with the first row of rocks blocking my view. This proved to be such a task that I actually deleted the bare segments that I'd already copied to create the full length and shape of my tunnel, and then I replaced them with copies of the first tunnel segments that I added the rocks to. Then a much simpler chore, adding the roof of the tunnel so the entire wooden frame is encased by rock and the wood actually looks like it has the function of supporting the structure of the tunnel. We're not done yet with rocks though. I warned you in the first episode that there would be a lot of rocks in this park, and nowhere more so than in this build. Because of course I also had to add rocks to the habitat, and placeable rocks is how we simulate the cliffs and later also the roof of the cave. So yeah, a lot of rocks. Another thing I warned you there would be a lot of waterfalls. Yes, even underground, I found a way to add a waterfall. And I actually really love how it draws attention to the height of the huge cave. It adds to the spectacular epicness of it, and you'll see that when I do a tour of the build at the end. Sometimes giving in to temptation and your biases works out really well. Throughout the two tunnels, there are little vignettes for our guests to discover, smaller caves that house the bones of dinosaurs. It goes really well with the spooky nature of this build. Of course, none of it is real. We're building a theme park and this is all set up to be part of the experience. Before you wonder, how did a Spinosaurus even get into the mine? It's just part of the storytelling for our guests to discover as they explore the mine. And it's supposed to make them really frightful of the Dimetrodon, which might not be huge, but this habitat has so many of them that you can imagine they swarmed the large theropods and took them down through sheer numbers. Comment down below if you recognize what that is in reference to. Next part of the build is a semicircular glass barrier to separate the underground guest area from the habitat. Unfortunately, we have only one clear glass piece, and it includes this metal frame, so I decided to hide that by building a wooden frame around it so it fits better with the style of the whole build. Other than that, I only added some lights before copying it over to create a semicircle. I used those specific lights for something else as well though later in this video, and it might be more magical than spooky, so you're gonna have to tell me what you think about it. Unfortunately, on the topic of lights, most lights, like the vast majority of lights, don't work during the daytime, so the habitat does need to be viewed at night for the lights to actually come on. And I had to add a lot of lights, including the huge stadium lights from the amphitheater, in order to be able to light up this huge cavern. There is a smaller section of the cave off to the side that I could light up with smaller lights, and I do really like that effect, so that also plays into my desire to take another stab at this mine/cave idea in a future build. I like the wide open space, it's very epic and surprising, which is what I was going for, but I'm quite addicted to the small, creepier, more claustrophobic parts of this build. Alright, so yeah, I had the crazy idea to add small lights to the roof of the smaller part of the cave. Placing all these lights on the rock was very tedious to move all of them individually very precisely, so only the light, not the middle part, only the light bulb clips out of the rock. And before you say, oh, you could have snapped it onto the rock using like the snap to position function, whatever. Yeah, that didn't work. They just sort of floated above the rock if I did that. So I had to manually place them one by one. Thankfully, I always have a video playing on my second monitor to distract me, although it possibly wasn't the best choice that it was a playthrough of Poppy's Playtime, which, if you're unfamiliar, it's not as cheerful as it sounds. And mind you, this was at 2 a.m. last night as I was struggling to finish this build. The huge cave just has a regular roof, no lights added, because it is a bit much, I will admit that. For the roof of a cave, I prefer this specific rock type flipped upside down because it creates a nice irregular texture. I didn't remember until I had already finished that I had planned to add stalactites. So I guess mistake number 3. And yeah, yet another reason to do another build like this in the future. But let's just tour this one for now because it is really, really cool. Before the tour though, a quick shout out to the amazing builders who've already built amenities for Grand Canyon Park. In last week's episode, I asked you guys for help to build custom amenities for the park in a fitting style and colorway, and you delivered. Unfortunately, I didn't get around to adding any in this episode, but you will be seeing your builds appear in future episodes with credit on screen, of course. And if you want, you can still build more. It's gonna be a big park, so we're gonna need a lot of amenities. She's pretty ugly on the outside, relatable, but it's the inside that counts. So let me show you. I'm gonna drop us down here at the entrance, the Dimetrodon mines. And the first part of the Dimetrodon mines is quite nice, you know, it's all lit up with these torches. Pay no attention to the very suspicious Mr. DNA in the corner. He just wants a drop of your blood. Anyway, if we round this corner, we come up on the first window that looks out into this cavernous open space underground. And you get a glimpse of the horde of Dimetrodon that is in here. We're gonna continue through the mines. And then we're gonna come up on one of the little scenes that I built to sort of set the mood. So this is just a fossil into the wall. And as you saw during the building process, there is a lot more. So we're gonna continue, and there should be another viewpoint. Yeah, right here. So here we can look down into the cave again. We see the feeder down below, and there's so many Dimetrodon in here, just to guarantee that, you know, we're gonna see them from most vantage points. And I think this is already pretty cool. So now we're gonna come up on the wide open space that we've dug out here. And there it is. Look at that. I think that's pretty epic. Now, I am already having ideas for other mines because I really enjoyed this build. And I think for other mines, I want to go a little bit more in on the claustrophobia. But yeah, for this one, I just had this vision of this huge open space dug out of the ground. And you can come up to the glass wall and spy on the Dimetrodon. And they're just the perfect amount of creepy. I didn't add any babies yet. I probably will. But the babies are so cute. They are distractingly cute. And, you know, we are going for a bit more of a spooky vibe. Anyway, now we're going to come up on the next section. And I hope you brought your flashlight, because it is dark in there. So the lights guide you to this new tunnel opener and opening. And as you can see, it is pitch black in there. That's really, really spooky in my opinion. So you gotta turn on your flashlight. And honestly, that just adds to the creepy factor. I was walking around this so much late at night building this, and it creeped me out a little bit, not gonna lie. Anyway, I will bravely venture forth. And we're gonna come up on another one of those little scenes. Very spooky, look at that. I love the lighting effect of the torches. Looks so creepy. Yeah, I really love this. So, it's so dark out there, and then you go, I don't know, this is just perfect horror vibes. Anyway, we move along as if I have courage. And then we're coming up on one of the underwater viewing domes. So that's this one here. Now, I gotta be honest, as cool as this is, they don't swim by here very often. It's very rare to catch a glimpse of the Dimetrodon. They do swim by the other one more often. That's because I engineered it that way. I've basically made it their only pathway between two feeders. So they regularly swim by the other dome. And then we come back out. So that's where we came from. So we gotta go that way. Let's continue. And we're gonna come up on a bit of a larger open space. Oh, hold on. Yeah, so there's a larger open space. I forgot about this one. Yeah, so we have another little scene. Oh, wrong one. Look at that! So yeah, you are supposed to turn off your flashlight to get that full spooky effect, but look at the lighting. That is so cool. And the waterfall streams are a little unnatural the way they are synchronized, but yeah, it's supposed to like simulate, you know, water dripping down from the ceiling. And then, boop, we're gonna continue on. So you come up on this open space. And, you know, you turn off your flashlight again, because there's a little bit of light. But there's, like, these creepy bones here that... suspicious. And this is how you would walk over to the bridge. Again, very dark. Now, unfortunately, bridges not functional in the game, so we can't actually walk over that. But the reason I could add this bridge is because there is another way out of the mines. So, yeah, that was on purpose. For future mines, I definitely want to do, like, more like, pathways branching off. Because I really feel like that adds to the, the scare factor that you might get lost. So we're going to walk past here. And again, it's pretty dark, so you might turn on the lights. And then there's Mr. DNA again. Just begging for some blood. No, get away from me. Anyway, and this is where I've put the Indominus Rex skeleton, because it's just proper creepy, I think. And again, torch inside the skull to add to that. And now we're gonna come up to probably one of my favorite bits, actually, which is a smaller cave. There you go. So, ooh, yeah. You can see the bridge really well. There's another feeder down there. And this is the ceiling with the lights. You know, those algae, bacteria type of inspired shenanigans. I'm not convinced, though. Let me know in a comment. Do you feel like we should keep this roofing, or should I just switch it out for regular rocky roofing? Unfortunately, my Dimetrodon are a no-show today. That's a shame. But yeah, then you go back out into the wide open world. I hope I can earn a sub with this park building series. If not, maybe some of my other videos will successfully recruit you to the square. I've linked some at the end here that I think you'll enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, and until next time, enjoy the game.